to each other. Like he seemed like, I think Crystal Skull came out in like 2008. So it's been like 15 years.
It's literally been 15 years.
He's
it's
80
crazy
years
to think
old.
It's that old.
Right. Harrison Ford's 80. He seemed more spry in this movie. And I don't know if that's because they just did a lot better job with the camera works and stuff or whatnot. But I thought he was great. I thought
he got a shirtless scene. He was pretty shredded for an 80-year-old.
For an 80-year-old dude? I was like,
he was ripped.
Dang.
Yeah.
And we are back.
Finally.
Like we've been gone for years.
A millennium.
We're back. Welcome to the Movie Dads podcast. Sorry we've been gone for so long. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
I'm Kyle.
And that is Kyle. Kyle, episode lucky number 13. Lucky 13.
Starting to learn math. Keeping up now.
You get your abacus out and you move a bead to the left every episode. You'll be good.
Love that. That's great.
Slide it over. Episode 13. Big premiere movie of the week. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
The Dial of Destiny.
So long, Harrison Ford. It's been real. It's been a journey. That's it. That's the stuff.
Man.
But as we start every episode, we're the Movie Dads. You can find us. Hopefully you're watching on YouTube. Please give us that like and subscribe. If you're not watching us on YouTube and you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Podcast Index. Also, please make sure you give us a like and subscribe. You can find us on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Boy.
Love it.
It is the 3rd of July today, and we are recording. Typically, we record on like Thursday nights. Is it Monday? It's Monday night. So we were busy. We were busy, and we just couldn't get it to work out. Our normal night would have been Thursday night. We were going to do this Thursday night. Thursday night, go see Indiana Jones, then come back and record, right?
Yep.
But we got
a really good plan.
That's the plan. So a good friend of ours, fights in the UFC, was doing a grappling match. Shout out Lionheart. Doing a grappling match on Fight Pass on Thursday. So we, as good friends, had to watch and make sure, we were there to support our buddy. So that pushed us back from Thursday.
We were excited because we thought he was going on at 8:00, and we were like, "Oh, that's perfect. We'll record right after." But
because we had like a backup episode planned. We were like, "Well, if we got to move Indiana Jones back a week, we can, and then we'll just do a different movie." But he didn't go on till late,
like 11:30, and then it didn't end till like 12:30 or 1.
No. And then we were texting, and I'm like, man, I got work in the morning. There's no way this is going to happen. This is at least 90 minutes.
I know you guys will find this very hard to believe, but Howie and I have jobs that are not this podcast.
Grown-up jobs. We have grown-up jobs. My grown-up job has been kicking my ass for the last couple of weeks. So it's been tough. We've been tough for us to coordinate. And then you left early Friday morning for something you're going to touch on your 6 to midnight that you said was coming, the Fan Expo in Denver. So we're excited to hear that. But big premiere movie of the week, Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. Those of you that aren't familiar with the podcast, or if you are, we will start our segments with our first segment, which is News of the Week, 6 to midnight, the one that gets our juices flowing. Then we'll do our big premiere movie of the week. Hits us up. Big premiere movie of the week. We'll talk a little bit about the movie at the beginning, kind of give you should you see it in the theater or should you not? Then we'll give you the spoiler warning. So then that way you can skip ahead to the next segment if you want. and then we'll get into the more detailed parts of the movie that give away some of the fun bits and surprises. Now you can welcome to skip that and go to our final segment, which is my personal favorite. There Can Be Only Five, where we take a subject and we each rank our top 5 in that subject. And we got some off the wall ones this week. We got a little nutty. So this will be kind of an interesting conversation, I think.
That's what she said.
I think we'll have fun with that. But
yeah,
we're movie dads. We have movie kids. Kyle, the kids and I suckered my wife into getting a dog. Another dog. So we already have a dog.
Where the neighborhood said your wife was telling everybody, we're just watching it for the weekend. And
yeah, that's how it starts.
Like, oh, you're watching them for the weekend, this weekend, and also for the next 100 weekends.
It was so it's a rescue. It's a puppy. It's a beagle puppy. She's the runt.
Cute.
She's the runt.
She's cute.
Yeah. So she's almost 6 months old. She weighs like 9 pounds, and she's tiny. So
yeah, she is tiny.
We took her home for the weekend. Yeah. We got her from the rescue. Take her home. Kids are 100% on board. The wife's not. Right? Obvi. Wife's not. But, we played our cards right. We took the dog home for the weekend, give it a trial run. Mom gets final decision. And, of course, the kids are, you can't give her back. Right?
Nobody, watches. No one takes the dog out for a test drive without some type of thought of we are keeping the dog.
Well,
right?
once the dog's in the room.
Unless he's runs all over the carpet.
Oh, yeah, right. Unless it's the worst dog, it starts biting people, or because our other dog is 2 years old, so he's still fairly young. His name's Stark, a la Tony Stark. So then we got a female puppy, right? Boy, so my wife wanted to pick the name. She's like, if I'm going to keep this dog, I got to pick the name. And we're like, okay, but it's got to tie in. So she was getting in group Facebook pages and stuff. What should I name this dog? What should we name this dog?
Jesus.
Right? Yeah. This is why she was still telling people that she wasn't sure if we were keeping it or not. And of course, some of the other moms that she's friends with were like, I saw your post. I know what you're keeping the dog.
Yeah, we are watching you.
So we tossed around some good MCU Marvel names. There was, Emma Frost was, do we name her Frost or something like that? Scarlet was a big one but my wife was like, she doesn't look like a Scarlet. We tossed around a lot of names, and we finally settled on Friday, which I think it kind of fits the dog, and it ties in with Stark too, right? So I thought that was kind of a cool name. We kind of already decided.
I immediately knew it. It when your daughter mentioned what they were naming. I think Abby was right there. Do you know what Friday is? I'm like, yeah, it's Tony Stark's computer. Hello.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody knows
so,
that.
we kind of had it picked out. If it was a boy, it was either going to be Banner or Jarvis.
Yeah.
So Friday was good. But anyway, so yeah, me and the kids got another dog. The wife's, she's dealing. But the best part of it is our Stark is all on board because they play all the time. And it's really kind of what he needed, because he was getting to the point where he was getting bored and stuff. And he's, it'll be 11 o'clock at night, and he's trying to play with us. And it's like, dude, I'm going to bed, man. You're nuts. So
yeah,
that's
Love
it.
That.
Yeah,
that's great. I think Friday works because Friday was the second round of the computer, right? Because Jarvis was number 1, and then Friday was number 2.
Right.
Second dog, Friday makes a lot of sense.
It works.
Love that. For me, dad wise, kid wise, I was gone for a couple of days out in Denver for Fan Expo. So I spent a lot of time looking for the right toys for my kids. Which I had a blast at this event. My only gripe was for such a huge Comic-Con event. It's the one that had the least figure and toy stands. Usually there's 12 or 15.
Right.
A lot of them have loose figs, and you can go find NECA figs and stuff. But I wanted to find some really cool Nightwing toys for Grayson, because he is Dick Grayson, Nightwing. And then was going to get a cool Spider-Man for Parker, and then wanted to get a Superman for Cal. But there was like 2 booths, and one of them was like strictly Marvel, which had some really cool stuff, but he was way overpriced. It was like, bro, I know that's online for like $75. You're trying to charge 150. I'm not doing that. So, anyways, but I took this was kind of funny. I put together kind of like a video on like one of the days, I think the second day. And I had just told Stephanie to show Parker, like, so he could see like what I was doing out here. And he watched, from what Steph said, he watched that video like 100 times. And then when I got home, that was like literally the first thing he wanted to do is watch that video. So he's watched my Comic-Con video multiple times. But don't tell them. I ended up just going to Walmart and picking them up some figs because Comic-Con didn't have figs that they would have played with or liked. So
I have a similar story. So I just throw this in. So when I went to Super Bowl 54 in Miami when the Chiefs played the Niners, and I was going to get the kids. I was going to get the kids jerseys. No, not quite. I was going to get the kids jerseys down there, but they were charging like an astronomical amount at the Super Bowl, like in the big fan shop. I just got online and bought them from like Fanatics. Like it's the exact same jersey, and just had them shipped to the house, and they, got to the house like the day after I got back from the Super Bowl. I did something very similar.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're at the age now where it doesn't matter. I will say, like, most of the time, all I was thinking, a buddy of mine, Mr. Matthew Bojanski, who I've shouted out multiple times on this pod, he went with me and it was his first con. So, like, he was having a great time, just kind of like, having his mind blown.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole time I was thinking, like, fuck, man, this is going to be so much fun when my kids are old enough. Like, Grayson is probably next year. I think I'd feel good about, like, you and me are going to go. We go to the Omaha one, but that doesn't count because it's tiny. Right. It's not like these, like, fan expos and, like, actual Comic-Cons. They are massive, and it's, like, almost overwhelming. So I am so excited to take my boys to those when we're older. And I did not cosplay. I know I mentioned I was planning to, just didn't end up working out. But I know that once my boys are old enough, like, we're totally going to do that. So anyways, I feel like I just kind of segued into our 6 to midnight already.
Go for it. Right.
Yeah, so 6 to midnight, the things that get us excited. Obviously, I'm kind of riding the high of Comic-Con. There's something cool about going to a different major city, and especially when it's just for a con. It's like you're in this like bubble of just nerds like yourself, and like to see how many people were there. There was hundreds of thousands of people. It was crazy how big this thing was.
Is it the Denver Convention Center?
Yeah, it was at Denver Convention Center. It was
I've been there before for a work function, so I know.
Nice.
It's enormous.
Yeah, I've actually been there for back when I was in higher ed. I had a couple of recruiting events at there too, but there was just like, it's huge. Parking was kind of weird and obnoxious, but just a ton of people. Probably the biggest cosplay con that I've been to in terms of like total amount of people that dressed up. Like, it was crazy the amount of people that were dressed.
Videos you were sending, it was like there was definitely more people like in cosplay, or at least than there weren't, it looked like.
Yeah. And that doesn't tell you, like, we need to post that video on our movie dads to be like, I was so bummed about it. Didn't hit me till midway through of like, oh my God, I should have had my wife make like a movie dads pod shirt, because I was networking. I was trying to talk to some people, meet some artists and things like that. I actually did meet this guy named Mike Lorenzo. He's on Instagram as Mike Lorenzo Art. But I saw he had 4 turtles from the 90s movies that I spotted from like 30 yards out. I didn't even talk to him. I walked right up and was like, I'll take all 4 of those. Got them right here. Show one of them. I don't know if you can see it with the glare,
there's some great pictures. That's for sure. That's pretty cool.
But like, I got all 4 turtles of these. They're dope. And then I got some Batman ones. So I have the figures for these. So I'm like, I'm gonna frame them kind of like these other ones behind me and get those figures up to kind of look cool. So Anyways, but yeah, he was super cool. We were talking nerd figure stuff, and he was like, "Oh, I'll follow the pod. Like, send it my way." So shout out there for him. But yeah, it was a total blast. It was kind of a quick trip. We drove up Friday. We went to the event Friday. We were there all day Saturday, and then we drove back Sunday morning. So I didn't get as much stuff as I usually do. Like I said, like I'm a big figure guy, and there wasn't a lot of figs, but I got a Raphael Funko Pop and some art for the background of my pod. So
nice.
Yeah, it was fun. We got to go. We're going to the Omaha one. You and I, like, we got to do that.
Well, I've taken Reagan because that's what one of the things she wanted for her birthday. She wanted to go to the Omaha one, so I bought tickets, right? Like well in advance.
What's the date on that again?
Oh, it's like July 22nd or 23rd. I think it's those 2 days.
Oh, it's coming up. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like 3 weeks. Yeah, it's coming up soon.
Yeah,
obviously, like the caliber of people that are coming aren't the same, but it's
still fun.
Obviously, in a much smaller venue. It'd still be cool to see. Reagan's going to dress up. It'll be cool. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I didn't mention like some of the cool people that were at this Comic-Con. Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader was there. Sam Raimi did a whole panel specifically just talking about like Spider-Man and recent Marvel movies. So that was kind of cool to hear him
to sit through that kind of thing.
It was awesome. He spoke for like an hour and just talked through literally talked about like a lot about like not studio interference, but like how to get things approved in a movie that you want, or that the studio will have things that they want in it, and how to like meet in the middle. He was talking specifically about like Tobey's Spider-Man and CG, and wanting to have a lot more live action and less CG and stuff. It was awesome to listen to that. Yeah. We didn't get to sit in the Hayden Christensen one. People were waiting in line for it at like 9 a.m. and his event was at like 7 p.m. So like people were like, he was the main attraction. Yeah, for sure. And he was the main Saturday. So, but got to see like all of the crew from The Office, all the crew from Star Trek Next Generation, Danny Trejo. John Bernthal backed out last minute, so that was a bummer. That does suck.
Charlie Cox,
he showed up, but he was there at the moments that we were not on site, so we missed him, which was a bummer because him and Stephen Amell were like the two people Matt wanted to see. And like we did get to see Vincent D'Onofrio, so.
Oh, I saw good group. You took a video. Ron Perlman too. That was
Ron Perlman, old Hellboy was there. That was cool. I know I've never actually like stood in line to meet them, and maybe it's like bad etiquette for me to video them from afar away. But
I don't think so, because they're charging you to wait in line to meet them. I mean, it's not cheap. So I mean,
for sure. I'm happy with just seeing them like within the same room with me, and I'm happy. So biggest line was Shamik Moore, the new Spider-Man.
Miles.
Yeah.
Miles Morales.
Miles Morales. So that was kind of cool after us watching such a great movie. His line was bigger than everyone's, other than Hayden Christensen. But and then second to Shamik was freaking Steve from Blue's Clues. So, freaking Blue's Clues just crushing it out there.
Think about the age of the people that are probably there. The biggest age group, right? Like they're probably the kids that were watching that.
For sure. It was like all the anime and like furries that were in line for that one. So,
checks out.
Yep. So it was good. Probably my favorite group to see at these cons are the 501st Legion. It's a Star Wars group where it's like all sorts of like Empire, Rebels, bounty hunters, but like you can't be in this group, which is all over the world. They have people in this thing all over the world. You have to have movie accurate props or replicas to be able to be in the group. So it was cool to see. There was a huge group of Mandalorians. I posted a little clip of those guys there. So anyways, I'll talk all day about this. It was a blast. I had a good time. Good. What's your 6 to midnight?
So my 6 to Midnight this week, so we had some big casting news come out in a couple different movies. So they filled out the Mortal Kombat 2 cast. They filled in some of the major characters. We're getting Katana and we're getting Sindel, and it looks like we're going to get a Baraka. And the two biggest ones, I think, to say out of, so the cast is returning. So we've got the Mortal Kombat 1 cast is all returning. The two biggest ones, obviously, was the one that we'd gotten hints of and got finalized is Carl Urban as Johnny Cage, which is awesome. When we were talking about all the cool stuff he's done, and I can't believe we missed this. Remember when we were doing our top 5 time travel movies, and we talked about Star Trek, and we were going through and we were saying like, oh yeah, Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto and Zoe Saldana, and we forgot Carl Urban is Bones. Right?
Bones. Right? We forgot to mention Bones.
Dude is in everything, like every major.
And him and Chris Pine have a great chemistry on screen, man.
Yeah, and Carl Urban needs a Star Wars movie now, so just get it going.
Goddamn right. Give him his Judge Dredd Star Wars.
Let's go. So that was the big one, and then the other one was the casting of Shao Kahn. So Shao Kahn is going to be played by a actor / bodybuilder by the name of Martin Ford. So Martin Ford is not super well known. I know who he is because he's in a lot of genre films. The dude's like 6'9" and weighs like, he's got to be at least 350. He is gigantic. Yeah. And
I recognize him from one of my good friends I grew up with, just somehow ass backwards fell into being John Cena's stunt double. Right. Has been his stunt double for like every movie that John Cena's done. As like the stunt double world, like this big, giant, bald, freaking Shao Kahn lookalike in the real world is good friends with my buddy Spencer. Awesome. And so like I had seen him in like Snapchats and stuff, like posts of them doing crazy shit all over the world. And so when they announced that, I was like, oh, I know that dude. That's the stunt guy.
It's good casting, though. I mean, talk about
he
somebody
looks
that's
just
physically imposing and is a scary looking son of a gun.
Yeah, he's going to be great. I don't remember much of his voice, how like Shao Kahn he is, but if they do like a Darth Vader thing where they put the right voice on top of the dude who looks just like him.
That was the biggest thing. Like, so obviously Shao Kahn was in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which is an awful, awful movie.
I still loved it.
I'm sure you do. The guy that played Shao Kahn looked okay. And he's like kind of one of those dudes that's like a bunch of henchmen, late 80s, early 90s action movies. Like, you see, when you're familiar with all those movies, you see that guy and you're like, his voice was terrible and his acting was worse. That was the problem then. So I'm optimistic that this will be much better. I mean, Martin Ford doesn't have a ton of acting credits to his name, but the stuff he's been in has been pretty freaking cool. So so that casting news came out. Mortal Kombat 2 is filming. That's exciting. But the big casting news of the week was we have our James Gunn DC Superman. We've talked about this guy before. So David Cornsweat is going to be Superman. As I like to call him Cavill Light. Because he's like 29 years old.
Wish.com Henry Cavill.
Wish Henry Cavill. Listen, like the guy hasn't made a movie yet. We're crapping on a dude. It's not his fault, right?
He's going to be good.
He's going to be fine. He's going to look the part. He's going to get swole, and he's going to be Superman, and it's fine. Then we got our Lois Lane, which is Rachel Brosnahan, who's most famous from being in House of Cards and The Marvelous Miss Maisel. So if you're not familiar with either of those shows, House of Cards on Netflix and Miss Maisel's on Prime. Pretty popular, and she's a pretty good actress. I think she's won some awards for Miss Maisel. So, it's good casting. I think it'll be a positive. He looks like Superman. I mean, the biggest hang up is all the people that were disappointed that, it's not Henry, but we've moved on. We've got our new Superman. The character's the character, right? We've had every time we've gotten a new Batman, we've all been like, really? And it's, it's worked out for the most part.
Robert Pattinson for sure. I'm like, oh my
Affleck
God.
was a good Batman too. We've talked, there's Lots of positives. So
Any Lois Lane is better than Amy Adams' Lois Lane. So
I didn't mind. I think Amy Adams is a great actress. I think that's a waste
I do
for
too.
her. I think it's a waste.
I think she's a great actress. I just don't buy her as Lois Lane.
She's good in some of the like real investigative, like get in your face parts. That's kind of Amy Adams, kind of deal. But yeah, I'm with you. I think she can do something a lot better than that.
Yeah.
So
I don't think anybody was really. I think you hit it right on the nail on the head with. I don't think there was any one guy that we were hoping for other than Henry, but we already knew that Henry wasn't going to be that. So
correct.
It was kind of like we finally just ripped the Band-Aid.
That's
now the Band-Aid's been ripped.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I guess out of all the people that they were throwing around, at least they got the guy that looks like Superman.
Yeah.
So I mean, hopefully he can play the part because he sure looks the part. So, but that's my 6 to midnight. I mean, casting news roundup, some big casting news. So yeah, exciting stuff. But that takes us into our big premiere movie of the week, the James Mangold directed, Harrison Ford starring Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Kyle, we didn't see this one together. You actually saw it while you were in Denver. Yeah, I went and saw it Friday night with my brother-in-law and Reagan. My initial thoughts on this movie were very positive. I kind of went in with low expectations.
I think a lot of people did.
I thought the trailers looked good. I was optimistic because I think James Mangold's a very good filmmaker. You know what? Like, I was pleasantly surprised when it was over because I really did feel like it was a good send-off. Like it was the movie that it needed to be. Now, I know you like Crystal Skull a lot more than I do because I think the original Indiana Jones trilogy is like a masterpiece. Crystal Skull was, I felt like a big drop-off for the character. I feel like this one bounced back quite a bit. It's not the level of the first three, but it did bounce back nicely. And the weirdest thing, and my brother-in-law Tony and I were saying this to each other, like he seemed like, I think Crystal Skull came out in like 2008. So it's been like 15 years.
It's literally been 15 years.
He's 80 years old.
It's that old.
Right. Harrison Ford's 80. He seemed more spry in this movie. And I don't know if that's because they just did a lot better job with the camera works and stuff or whatnot. But I thought he was great. And I thought it was
he got a shirtless scene and he was pretty shredded for an 80-year-old.
An 80-year-old dude? I was like,
he was ripped.
Dang.
Yeah, which very much felt like they were purposely trying to do that. So there was, I thought they did an awesome job with the de-aging, like kind of flashback scenes where you see him as young version.
Yes. So, obviously we see that in the trailers, right? So that's not
no spoilers.
We know that's good. But yeah, I'm with you there. I thought they did a good job with that. I thought it looked good.
One thing I saw online that going into the movie, like in terms of review, that I think just nailed it. And Matt, who saw it with me, kind of agreed. It's like, that's perfect. It's like this movie was way better than it deserved to be. Like
fair.
We weren't expecting, way better than like expectations. Cause I think we all not necessarily had low expectations, but
I did.
I don't know. It felt different than like The Flash, where we're going in with like Keaton's back, like this is going to be huge. And I don't know. I've talked about this multiple times. Like there's some franchises that I'm like, I don't care what they do with it, but the more they do, like give me more of it. Great. I'm happy. But then the other ones where I'm like, they better fucking not screw this up, like Batman. Like for me, then, which I think plays a lot of why I didn't think Crystal Skull was that bad. I also, one of my favorite actors just in the acting world is Shia LaBeouf. So I think that maybe played a role why I liked that. The Crystal Skull. Anyways, it was fun. When I left the movie, I like had like positive thoughts of like that was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But like over the 24 hours after that, it's like almost like I started liking it even more. Like there was a ton of I just felt like, man, like that movie was
You start thinking
good.
about
like,
it more, and you're like, "Oh boy, that was
like,
really good."
Yeah, like that was enjoyable. Like I want to go play Uncharted when I get home. Like which I did when I got home. So
nice. I would say go see it in the theater. I feel like to be fair, like it's Indiana Jones. You kind of want to see it on the big screen. It's got a lot of different settings across the world. You know, you got Africa, and you're in Europe, and it's really well done. You got some old like original characters coming back that we haven't seen since like Last Crusade, or you know, some of them that popped up in Crystal Skull are back, and it's definitely worth the watch. There's new characters. I think the story's cool. You know, we kind of got back to the Nazis again, you know, because
God damn it.
Yeah, damn those Nazis. But it was always kind of fun when, you know, Indiana Jones kept fighting the Nazis, right? That always, it's easy to make them hate them. But I would say, yeah, like go see it in the theater for sure. I think it's the, you know, proper send off for Harrison Ford. And I just like, yeah, I recommend go see it.
It felt like an Indiana Jones movie. Like if that makes sense. Like it checked all the boxes of the things that I think made the originals awesome. There's a lot of jet setting. I won't jump into spoilers till a little bit later on some things, but like in terms of like settings, there were some cool scenes, cool places they went to. It was cool because like they really went for like, well, he's way older and this is way later from the original movie. So like, let's do more modern time, not modern in terms of our modern, but way more into the future.
Yeah. It felt way more modern than you're used to.
Yeah. So, I thought that was great. The actors I really enjoyed, like they did a good job, I think, with the people they picked for it. So I always have trouble talking about reviews when I can't do spoilers. So
yeah, sure. But you know, the things we know, like Mads Mikkelsen is the bad guy. I thought he was really good. You know, like you see that in the trailer.
About like a perfect human being to be a bad guy Nazi in a movie. Like
he's a really good bad guy, and he does a great job of being a bad guy. And he's got that like he looks like a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like sorry, Mads, your face it's bad. You're a bad guy.
I don't know the name. And you are always the professional, and I'm always the unprofessional. I don't remember the name of the actress of the main.
Oh, it's what
character, the goddaughter,
Phoebe Waller-Bridges from Fleabag on Amazon. That's where she's most well known for.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah,
she was great. Like she was awesome. She was a lot of fun.
She's very charismatic.
Perfect,
and that's how she is in the show too. Like if you've ever watched, you've obviously never watched Fleabag. It's she that's her. Like she does a great job with the delivery and like
her screen presence is great.
It's fantastic. It's great. So let's just get into it, right? Like,
God damn it!
Spoiler warning! Spoiler warning! Go.
Get out!
Get out!
Get out! If you don't want to hear what happened in the movie,
jump ahead. That's it. All right. Listen, like the whole movie, I think it was like, listen, he can't fight as well as he used to. Let's put him in a chase scene, like because there was like 100 of them, 100 chase scenes, and they were all really well done. There's the one in the parade, which you see a lot in the previews. There's one. I
loved that scene. Like just that setting was cool. What a cool
it was cool. And like man, the bad guys were really good. There's like that giant Nazi guy. He's huge.
He reminded me of Kevin Nash in the Punisher movie, like the Russian dude with the Russian T-shirt. Like
dead on. Yeah, he was wearing like striped polos every time. Yeah, man. Like it was. I liked it. It was really well done. Obviously, like every other Indiana Jones, there's a straightforward action adventure, right? Where we've got something we got to find or whatever, and there's the flashback to World War II. right? Like Hitler had just lost, and they come across, they're looking, it's actually, I thought it was kind of cool because they were looking for, escapes my
Something
name,
else.
the spear.
The spear,
Right.
yeah.
And I can't remember what it's exactly called, but the spear that pierced Christ, right, and had
Mm-hmm.
Christ's blood on it, but it turns out that's a fake. But they actually did have, these Nazis had another artifact, which is most commonly known as the Dial of Destiny, which was like a mathematical dial created by Archimedes. That apparently he could find fissures in time, in time travel, right?
Yep.
So you kind of, they're looking for this, and there's a line, and it's in one of the trailers, and Harrison Ford says, I've seen a lot of things in my life that I can't explain, right?
Yeah.
That's the one thing about Indiana Jones, is Indiana Jones is very much straightforward an action adventure movie. And there's always kind of like, at the end, there's this supernatural or biblical element, right? Like,
Yep.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, they open the Ark and everybody's face melts, you know?
Yep.
In Temple of Doom, there's the voodoo and stuff. There's the glowing rocks. Last Crusade, we have the Holy Grail, and the Crystal Skull, we obviously have the alien stuff. What did you think of all that leading up to, the ending? Because I want to kind of talk about that separately.
Yeah. I kind of, that I think is what I like so much about the Indiana Jones movies, is like they're action adventure. They're based in reality for the most part. I mean, like some of these chase scenes of, Harrison Ford, freaking, Indy jumping from car to car, on top of a train and perfectly jumping and landing, like some of those things obviously are like, is that really realistic? It's plausible, but it's all kind of based in reality, but they just do the perfect amount of job of sprinkling in like supernatural, otherworldly things you can't explain. And I liked how they did this. And I guess I'll kind of talk more about that when we get to talking about the ending. I liked everywhere they went. I liked this artifact that they were trying to chase. I think was super interesting. The characters were interesting. There were some things that I think, it was a great movie, but there were some things when I left that I was like, that was a little bit of a plot hole or seemed kind of strange. Like a couple of things, like, so they find back in this World War II scene, they find the dial, or they find half of the dial, and they're trying to, basically the whole movie is they're trying to find another tablet that will lead to the second part of the dial, so they can put the dial together and go back in time, or use it for how it's supposed to. German, Nazi bad guy and his goons, they want to get it so they can go back in time and win the war. My things that got confusing. So the goddaughter of basically a good friend of Harrison, of Indy's, like a colleague who was in the World War II scene, that finds it with him. Like, she is trying to basically take after her dad and continue his work, or complete his work, because they never found the second piece. It was just confusing because so the dad gets really like obsessed with the dial, and they never really explained, like, was he obsessed with it because he wanted to go get the other piece and time travel?
I think he was just obsessed that it could do what Archimedes said it could do. Like, he was obsessed with finding out whether that was true or not. Like, could this really happen? He believed it could happen, that he could travel through time with the dial.
For sure, which makes my second part of why it's so confusing. So then Harrison goes to take it from him, and basically, because it's driving him crazy, and he's going to take it,
destroy it.
But he wants them to destroy it. So to me, that was confusing, of like someone who's so obsessed with this thing that wants it to work and wants to find the piece to make it happen. All of a sudden, he's totally fine with Harrison taking it and destroying it. I get more from the standpoint of him being like, this is a weapon of mass destruction. If someone finds it, it'll end the world or whatever.
Right. They can go back and ruin everything. I saw that as two ways, and you're right. It was very unclear what the whole motivation there was, right? So I guess I kind of made it up in my head that one, he wanted it destroyed because it was ruining his relationship with his daughter. And he was spending all of
I
it.
didn't think about that at all.
See, he was spending all the time researching and studying this, and like it was driving him mad, and he knew his young daughter it was affecting that. That was, maybe I made that up in my head, but that's kind of the way I saw it.
That's good. I mean, I didn't think about that at all. I was thinking strictly.
And then the other one, like you said, I thought he also thought like this has to be destroyed or somebody's going to go back and they're going to ruin everything. I think that's, yeah, I think both of those are correct. It was also very like, she wants the dial so she can sell it, but yet she also wants to find it to prove that her father's work was legit. That was also kind of like, well, which one is it? Because she almost sold the damn thing.
Yeah,
right?
They literally.
She's very motivated by money. That's clear.
That's exactly right.
But at the same time, right. I think Harrison even says something like, "You are your father's daughter," or you know, because she like knew all these mathematical codes, and like she had like done all this research as well, and followed up her father's work. But she kind of cons Harrison Ford into giving her the half of the dial so she can sell it because it's worth a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
But then it does. Like, I don't know if her motivation changes. Again, not super clear.
Yeah, they were. Yes, like she's like this scoundrel who has a lot of debts, and she's like scammed a lot of people, and her and this young little, I don't remember what his ethnicity is, but like
Short Round 2.0.
Yeah, Short Round 2.0, her version, which honestly, I think that's kind of the vibe I got from her character in this movie was like, in the Crystal Skull, it was very much implied that Shia was going to be taking over as the new Indiana Jones.
Correct.
And he is his son.
Yep.
And so like, obviously that didn't happen, and the movie didn't do well, and people apparently didn't want to see that.
And now obviously Shia's.
They killed him off, and he's crazy. And so, which I liked how they added that in, and that it honestly, it gave Indy way more depth to his character than he's had in any movie, because
he's never had it. He's had the relationship with his dad, and that was about all you knew.
Yes. And so this, like, all of a sudden, midway through the movie, you find out, like, which I loved that they didn't just hide from the Crystal Skull movie, but like he had a son. They didn't say his name or anything like that or refer to the movie, but they just mentioned that his son had died in the war. And
we got to back up a little bit, right? Because at the very beginning, like, so at the end of Crystal Skull, he marries Karen Allen, right? He marries her character, Ravenwood's character, Marion Ravenwood, like Mutt Lang. Was it Mutt Lang? Mutt's mom. He marries her, and then at the beginning of this movie, there's divorce papers. He puts the magnet on her face on the fridge.
Yes,
you know. You realize that that's fallen apart, but you don't know why. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, that's a good point. That's important. That's the depth of, like, you end up finding out. Great point. That when you first see Harrison, he's literally like waking up in a drunken stupor he's living in a dingy apartment in downtown New York or Chicago or wherever they are. Beer cans everywhere, divorce papers. And so you're like, oh shit, it didn't happen. It didn't work out. Well, you find out the reason it didn't work out was because their son went to war and died. And they do a great job of, there's like a little bit of a line of like, oh, did he go to war to try to make you proud? And was like, no, he went to war to try to make me mad. Or
the goddaughter character, she says to Harrison, if we found the dial and you could go back in time, where would you go? He said, I would go back and I would stop my son from enlisting in the army.
Yeah. Which, like, that was the moment where it was like, oh, everything got super real. And that's when you realize, he mentions like his wife, you know, she is grief stricken, and nothing can help someone when they're going through grief. Sometimes it's just nothing you can do. And like, I totally can relate to that and have seen that. So like for me, that was like, ooh, now I feel this a lot.
Yeah.
Another part that would,
sorry, I was just going to touch on that too. There's a really great part. It's in that same scene where Harrison's standing they're on the boat and they're going to find
Don't say what I'm going to, I was just going to say this part. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Go ahead.
Does this have anything to do with Antonio Banderas?
No. So it's when she says, you know, I would go back and I'd stopped him from enlisting. And she goes, how would you do that? And he goes, I would tell him he's going to die. And like Harrison's like, I mean, like Harrison Ford is a good actor. He's never, you know, like he's never been one of those people that's like, oh my God, give him all the awards. Like Harrison Ford's never really been that guy. That was one of the most emotional times I've ever seen Harrison Ford, like
for sure,
sad in a movie. Like I would tell him he's going to die. So yeah, I just want to throw that in there because I thought that was
I think that's
really good.
That whole, I mean, within the 15 to 20 minutes, there's a lot of seriousness that happens there, which we'll circle back and talk about some of. I do want to circle back to that
because of the way it ends, right? Like, I want to circle back and talk about that emotional part too.
Well, yeah. So we'll dive into the scuba diving stuff and going down to get the dial.
Yep.
But Indy goes. So we'll just jump into it. So Indy, as they're like jet setting, they're trying to find this thing. They find out that the second piece, or at least the tablet from the second piece, was in the original boat crash that they found the first dial. So a sponge diver found the shipwreck way back in battle where basically why can't I think of the main historic character that this whole thing, Archimedes. So like Archimedes, there's a big war and they, allegedly he splits the two pieces up and sends them to two different places while there's like a siege on the city that he's in. But there was a shipwreck where a sponge diver found the initial piece, but as they're kind of unraveling the mystery, it turns out like, well, actually there was a second part to the wreck that people don't know about. That's, was a little bit deeper. And there was 100 soldiers like buried within the boat. And so as they're kind of unraveling things, they're like, well, would they put 100 people on that boat to protect just one half of that? Or is there a potential that the other piece or the tablet to lead to the other pieces on there too?
Right.
So they're like, let's go to this boat wreck. Let's find it. So Indy goes, and of course he has a friend that he knows from the past that just happens to be in this area, who just happens to have a boat, who just happens to be a deep sea diver. And so who happens to also be Antonio Banderas. So they go and find this guy who takes him on the boat out to the shipwreck. Mm-hmm. Here's one of my biggest like problems with the movie, or my biggest like, well, that doesn't seem, that's not plausible. Like one, if they find out the sponge diver said, actually there's a second half to the wreck and there's a lot of gold and stuff down there. Why did nobody go back and dive on that again? Nobody finds a shipwreck and never goes back or doesn't plunder it for everything. Like we know that that's common. Secondly, they make it sound like it's a super deep wreck and hard to get to. Like you're going to need the Seagate and a PlayStation controller to go down like it's the Titanic.
Too soon.
But it literally, the first level of the original diving or the original shipwreck is like here, and then there's a plateau that falls, and the second one is right here. And literally when they get down to the first one, it looks like they're 20 feet underwater, not even. And then the second one where they go down to this wreck that no one's ever been to, but it's known that it's down there.
You can see
it. Like it looks like it's 30 feet down, like from the wreck. So like that was a part that I was like, what? Why hasn't anybody gone back to this? And this isn't very deep. They made it sound like they needed a submarine.
It was like 300 feet, right? Like it wasn't even.
Yeah, it was nothing crazy. So, So that was one of the things that when we left the movie, I was like, I wish they just would have made it seem like those shipwrecks were a lot deeper. Like the diving didn't
Right.
seem that
So they
hard.
had 3 minutes to find this thing, right? So that they didn't have to like worry about getting the bins, and they find it in 3
Yeah.
minutes, like no big deal. Like they find it
Yeah.
right immediately, and it's like,
Yes.
okay. The whole boat scene, that, you know what really bothered me? So then basically
I know what you're gonna say.
the Nazis show up, right? And they end up escaping on the boat, and all they leave the Nazis is like the raft, like the inflatable boat with like the 20 horse motor on it.
Yeah.
They catch up to them.
Yep.
No.
There's that
No.
whole thing was one, like, I'm not a scuba diver, but I know that the bends can't be prevented just by, if you're only down for 3 minutes, you can come right back up and you'll be fine. I get it. This movie's not supposed to be a scuba accurate, but like,
Right.
God damn it, if you're going to do a deep sea shipwreck, like, make it look like you're not at the bottom of a pool. One.
If it's
Two,
300 feet, do you even have to worry about the bins?
it's a solid point.
I mean,
like,
it was far enough, like you could still see sunlight where they were at. I mean, it wasn't.
I liked, yes, you could literally see the boat like clear as day. You could see everything that was going on. People jumping from you could see the Nazis jumping from one boat to the other.
You can literally see the people. That's how close they were to the boats on the surface.
Yes.
You see them jumping across from one to the. Anyway, yeah.
But no one's ever been down there to get all of this plunder and wrecks, even though
it was well known in the Mediterranean. Like they're not even. Like they're not even in the. It's not like they're in the middle of the Atlantic.
They're not even that far off of away from shore.
No.
Gosh dang it! There was a major point that I wanted to make.
Sorry.
Anyways, so they get brought up. They get brought back up to the boat. They have Antonio Banderas has been in the movie for now like one scene. It's been 10 minutes since we just met him. He takes them out to this exact wreck. They go down. They find it. Nazis come in. They want the tablet that they found down there. Of course, they found it. I did like that the eels. They did a big thing with the eels and specifically mentioned it as like they're kind of like snakes, but in the water. Yes. Yeah, so like that was cool. Call back to Indy's like fear of snakes. That was kind of a cool little thing they did. But anyway, so they get on the boat and they're arguing back and forth because the Nazis want to get, they want to know where the second piece to the dial is. And as like they are trying to prove that they're being serious, they just straight up unalive Antonio Banderas with like 7 point blank shots with a pistol. Just pow, 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 pow on the floor, which was brutal. And then they go into like this, just the typical, like, all right, we're trying to find our way out as we're trying to talk our way out of the situation, which they do. They blow up a stick of dynamite, which allows them to escape onto the boat. This was actually my favorite part of the movie that I thought, like, thank you for putting that in, because that's exactly what I was thinking. The girl, the Short Round 2.0 and Indy get on the Nazis boat and they take off.
Right.
And like the girl is like super excited, like, look what we showed them, like we got away, like look at us now. And as she's like laughing and Short Round 2 is all excited, like, I can't believe we got away. Indy is literally like, my friend just got murdered. Mm-hmm. Like, shut up was kind of the vibe.
Yeah.
Which I love, because that was right when they freaking capped Antonio. That was my first thought, was like, geez, Indy, you just go, I'm just going to go bring anyone and everyone into my situation or my adventure. And you just went and brought this guy out to the situation. You got him killed, essentially. And like, I like that there was they put some heaviness to like, that Indy also recognized that, and that they didn't just keep moving like, oh, one of my buddies just got killed.
Well, there was a little bit about that at the beginning too. So like when they first find the half of the dial that he has, right? Like they kill 2 of his colleagues in the college, and he takes it very hard, but then he also kind of gets framed for their murder. So he's on the lam this entire movie, which ties
that was like
into the ending too, which I think has a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah, which I mean we can jump into now. Those are like
Well,
the main things I want to talk about.
right. Yeah. So we'll just get to the ending. So basically, they get the tablet. They take away in the Nazis' high-speed giant jet boat. The Nazis are able to catch up to them in a life raft with a 15-horse Johnson on it. I mean, whatever. And so they end up in Syracuse, which is, I think, it's Sicily, to find Archimedes' grave. So that's where you kind of get the traditional like temple going through in the caves, all the different puzzles and stuff, and they end up finding the other half of the dial. So the ending is basically like the Nazis catch up to them. They now have the entire dial of destiny. Okay. Their whole plan is, like Harrison Ford's like, you're going to go back. Who are you going to kill? You're going to kill FDR. You're going to kill Eisenhower. You're going to kill Churchill. Who are you going to kill? And Mads Mikkelsen's character, like his whole purpose is he's going to go back and he's going to kill Hitler. And he's going to take over because he now knows everything Hitler did wrong at the end, and he's going to fix it so that the Nazis win and take over the world. And that's so basically they have the dial. They know where this time rift's going to be. They hop in an airplane. Conveniently, it's not that far away. And they fly to this time rift because they're going to go back to like right before the end of the war. And
time out before you jump into that.
Of the war. Yeah.
Yes. Before you jump into that, I thought it was annoying that they chose to where his Archimedes grave was like on a tourist site that like no one's found. So it's like this tourist site that like thousands of people they're there all the time, but no one's found this random cave entrance a little bit high. No one's ever gone back there.
I think that's a ledge.
Yeah, like, oh, look, there's an opening right there where thousands of people come apparently weekly and no one's ever gone down there. That was kind of weird. Also, the kid, Short Round 2.0, is handcuffed to the Kevin Nash 2.0, and they destroy the bridge in this thing and fall into the water. But after they get the dial, it literally shows them all going back across that bridge, and it's not destroyed anymore. It's back to normal.
Yep.
But the thing I thought was cool about Archimedes' grave was that on it, there was like clearly a plane of some kind, or like a dragon with propellers.
Correct.
And then they obviously had mentioned that the Dial of Destiny is potentially like time travel, and so they kind of are alluding that maybe Archimedes was a time traveler. And then as they find his grave for the second part of the dial, he's rocking a watch. And so then it was like, it really like clicked. We're all like, holy shit, like Archimedes was a time traveler. Like, oh my God, okay, this is getting crazy. And then they get on their plane to go to the thing, and I'll let you take over where you were.
You're good. But anyway, so they hop in the plane, they find the rift, they go through, and Harrison Ford is like, you haven't taken into account continental drift, and it's going to throw you off. You're not going to go back to the time when you think you are. And they're like, we're going to go anyway, blah, blah, blah. They go back in time, and it takes them back to the Battle of Syracuse in Archimedes' time, right? And the Romans are fighting the Sicilians or whatever it is. So you realize it's not exactly explained, but they keep referring to the plane as the dragons. Right?
Yep.
So then it clicked with me, and I was like, oh, the dragon on the grave is the plane. Anyway, they wreck the plane. Nazi dies. Archimedes gets his watch. There's your watch, right?
Yep,
so now it's like Harrison Ford realizes the Dial of Destiny isn't meant to travel through time. It's meant to take Archimedes home to his time, no matter what. Like that's kind of, and that it's almost kind of like a throwaway line when he says it too, because he doesn't like delve into it. He just kind of says it's always meant to take him home.
Yeah.
Indy's been shot at this point in the shoulder. He wants to stay. I want to stay here. He's an archaeologist. This is like his dream. Like he's back in BC and he's with Archimedes and on the
very beginning of the movie when he's teaching in his class, he goes over this battle specifically, talks about it. and he's clearly super excited and jazzed on it, and
Nobody
his
else
whole
is.
class is boring as shit. They don't care at all. I was like, as all of that was unraveling, of like, oh my god, they're about to go back into World War II time. I also was like, okay, this is Indiana Jones. We're talking about doing something supernatural. What is going to happen? Because as they're flying the plane, you could see this big like tear in the sky, or just like it was like a storm cloud
Right.
going around like a light hole, giggity. And I thought for sure that they were going to get close to it, and we were going to be able to like see through like the olden times, but then it would close up before they got it, or something would happen. So the second that thing went through, I'm like, oh shit, we're time traveling, baby.
Huey Lewis kicks on, starts singing Back in Time.
Yeah.
Michael
So
J.
I
Fox
thought that
flies
was
in.
awesome. And then the moment that it clicked, where Harrison said, yeah, like this was never meant to jump, like be a time travel machine, or like this was like he was implying this was not meant to do a whole bunch of jumps. This was always meant for this one time and moment.
Mhm.
And then when I saw like the Roman ships, I was like, oh fuck, they're way too far back. How are they going to get back? This is wild. I enjoyed that. I thought that was great.
No, it was awesome. That ending was that whole going back in time thing. Like we said, like Indiana Jones is 90% of the movie, and all of them is grounded in reality. Maybe surviving a nuclear blast in a refrigerator is not, but for the most part, they're grounded in reality until the supernatural thing. Like Last Crusade, the whole, until the end, it is. The Raiders of the Lost Ark, until the end, it is.
Yeah. Which I think is what makes the historical artifacts and things they're chasing down that much cooler and more interesting, because there is a little bit of like this crazy thing that's from history could potentially be real.
Well, it could be a real thing, right? The Ark of the Covenant, if you believe in the Bible and you believe in Jesus Christ, the Ark of the Covenant's a very real thing. The Holy Grail is a very real thing. If you believe in aliens and the crash at Roswell, New Mexico, then that crystal skull they take out of that thing in the beginning of that movie is a real thing, right? So
yeah.
I'm sure that out of all of them, though, the Dial of Destiny is probably the most likely to actually be something that was built. Whether it could travel through time or not, I'm not, but that actually is probably the most real artifact in all these movies. When he says he wants to stay, did you think he was staying?
I thought for sure, because all I could think was like,
me too.
I was like, oh shit, like that. Well, one, he was dying, and two, I really got a feeling of like
he has nothing to go back to.
He's got nothing to go back to, but also it was like all the movies and all the history of the things he's done and what he's taught. All I could think of was like, oh, he's probably thinking in his head like, how unreal and insane is it that I am now back in time with Archimedes? There's no way that I can't stay. Like I have to stay. Like this is everything I've done as Indiana Jones is like, this is what it was all for. I thought for sure he was staying. I also like when the light bulb went off, of like, holy shit, the plane, that was the dragon. And now that's where he got the watch. Oh shit, Archimedes didn't time travel. This one moment happened.
Right. That was all awesome. I loved that part of the movie. I had a lot of emotions in that part, because I'm like, holy shit, if he stays, that's like the perfect ending for Indiana Jones. Like he's this archaeologist.
Yeah, I thought that same thing.
Just like you were talking about. I'm like, that's the perfect ending. Like if you're going to send Indiana Jones off and say that he's done, yes, you don't have to kill him. You put him back in time. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
And then reality starts setting in, right? And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is like, you could change the course of history if you stay here. Like you would be able to tell them things. It's, very much butterfly effect. Like you can't be here.
Yeah.
You will ruin everything.
Yep. Yeah, she did great because she stepped in. She was like the voice of reason. Like, no, like absolutely not. Like, no. Mr. Archimedes, I am a huge fan. You are a very integral part in this whole world, but like he cannot stay here. He does not belong here. I thought the moment where she was like, I can't remember if she was like, okay, I'll stay, I'll let you stay, and then knocked him out.
Wham.
Knocked him out, and then he wakes up back home.
Shitty apartment.
Which I like was another I thought was just a good like. They did a good job of I had this like feeling of like, oh my God, we're not supposed to be here. This is the past. We're going to screw things up. Every time that they were shooting a Nazi and he was falling out of the plane, all I could think of was like, oh my God, you just left a body. This is going to change the course of history. Don't touch anything. Don't talk to anybody. Don't let them see you. It's like every time, like when they crashed the plane, I was like, oh my God, they've now changed the world. They've freaking left this modern plane there. But anyway, so like when they got back to reality or the real world or the modern world, I guess.
Right.
That was like
1969. It's moon landing, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. That was where it was like set in of like, whew, okay, we're back. But you could tell that Harrison was kind of like, man, I had heaven at my fingertips. I was at the gates of greatness, but this was the right thing. That's kind of the vibe we got.
So the ending basically is Marion Ravenwood's back, his soon to be ex-wife. She's there. And she says, she's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, well, I heard you were back. And it's kind of this, it kind of clicked with me. And I don't know if this is the way you took it or not. She wasn't the one that was having all the problems. He was, right? He was the one that couldn't cope with the loss of his son. He was the one that had changed. And this adventure brought him back. He's Indiana Jones again, which I think I didn't realize that he had changed throughout the movie until the end when it gets called out. And then, so basically it's like they're back together, right? And then Jonathan Rhys-Davies' character shows up with his grandkids, right? You get Gimli the dwarf back, and he's, with his grandkids.
Go get him, Indiana Jones.
Right, yeah. And in the Short Round 2.0 is there, and it's so the ending you thought you were going to get didn't happen, where he stays back in time, but then this other ending happens, and you're like, that actually works pretty well too.
Yeah. I thought the exact same thing. Like the second that she was like, I heard you were back, it all clicked of like, oh, she wasn't the one that had the issues. He was. And like, I thought that was a great job, which also, again, really put some depth to Indiana Jones.
It did.
And his character. So I could have been done without with them kissing each other on the shoulder and body parts, but
it's very much a callback to Raiders of the Lost Ark, though. That exact scene happens in that movie almost.
Yes, so which is great. But they're old.
But yes,
they're old.
But they're old. It's gross.
Yeah, it was yucky.
Listen. Go ahead.
It was a good time. I was just saying it was a great ending.
Listen. We talk. There's a lot of plot holes in this movie. There's a lot of shit that doesn't make sense, right? We're not even just talking about supernatural stuff. We're just talking about things that just somebody would have pillaged that boat. Somebody would have found that grave. Whatever. Okay, got it. All that aside, solid movie, decent ending to Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford's legacy.
Yep.
7.5.
What? Okay, I'm going to give my rating here. one of the biggest plot holes in the whole movie that I did not even mention, that didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah.
The bad guy at the beginning of the movie, he literally gets clotheslined while on a speeding train by a
he's
metal
dead.
bar.
He's for sure dead.
He's for sure dead. His
or
head
disfigured,
is destroyed.
or at least, he's dead.
Yeah, or he is the headless horseman. There's no way he survived that.
That train's going like 60 miles an hour.
Yes.
Bam!
It was very apparent that he died. No one's surviving that. But then he's the bad guy in the future. And they didn't really age him much. He looked the same age.
You're right. Yes.
And so
they just gave him some salt and pepper in his hair. That was about it.
And they never once talked about how he survived. It almost felt like they were implying early on, because when he first sees Indy again, and Indy's like, "Oh, it's you." He's like, "Oh, you." And he, the Nazi, doesn't recognize him or even know who he is. It like brushes him off of like, "Who are you?" and keeps moving. So this whole time I thought that the dial had been found at some point, and he had either gone back in time, or this was the young version of him before he ended up meeting Indy. Like, they didn't explain anything like that. And they didn't explain, okay, so literally he just got clotheslined, his head knocked off, but he survived and is now in the future. And now he wants to go back to the past.
Dennis Hoppered in Speed.
Literally.
Like
and they didn't explain it at all. No, and maybe there's a deleted scene out there that maybe goes into depth on that. But that was
is this a DC movie now? We're going to wait for the director's cut?
Hey, now. I can't defend these people. I love DC, but I can't defend their movies, okay? Listen, that was the thing that, like, I can't believe I hadn't mentioned that till right now. But, like, when we walked out, when I was with Matt, that was, like, the first thing. I was like, wait, they didn't. There was no explanation on how the guy survived. It wasn't one of those things that was left to interpretation of like, oh, he could have survived. Like when they jumped off into the lake off of a moving train, they could have done something like that, where like he jumped off. It's like, oh, no one could survive that fall from this speed.
Giant marshmallow, and he bounced off, and he was fine.
Yeah, they totally could have like had him jump off or fall off into the lake,
or just have him fall off the train. You don't have him get hit. Maybe he just gets pushed off. Then it doesn't seem like there's no way he died. You know, maybe maybe he lived.
He looked like it was Mark McGuire in his steroid run, took a baseball bat straight to the face. There's no way. A baseball bat the
size of a telephone pole to the face.
Yeah. So that was the one thing that I was like, what the fuck? They didn't do. There's none of that part made sense. But you know what? The movie was a ton of fun.
Yes.
It wasn't about pointing out all those things that I just nitpicked throughout this whole thing about these are things that annoyed me.
It's not really nitpicky though when they're pretty glaring. You know, it's nitpicking when it's.
But it's like, we gotta remind this is also a movie that they fucking fly a 1960s plane into a rift in time and go back and meet Archimedes. So like, there's a lot of stuff that's like, like, what am I really questioning?
1940s warplane, Nazi warplane, and a 1969 Cessna into the rift.
So like, you can't like, those were just the things that I thought was interesting to be like, that didn't make sense. But I actually love the movie. I love the chase scenes. I love that they got like the classic, like Indiana Jones in like India marketplace running through. Like, that was a ton of fun. They jet set it everywhere. They went to cool countries that were very Indiana Jones like. I had fun. Like I said, like as 24 hours after the movie like went on, the more and more I felt like I liked the movie. Of like, man, just that was fun. It was indie.
Yep.
I'd give it an 8, honestly.
Nice. Yeah.
Maybe
solid.
Maybe it'd be higher if there wasn't so many things. And I was like, Jesus, that doesn't make any sense.
I agree.
Maybe if they would have made the shipwreck deeper in the water, I would have.
I think the nostalgia factor has a little bit to do with that, because I think like the whole time we're watching this movie, again, we probably had low expectations. So we go into this movie with a little bit lower expectations, and then it gives you this great big burst of nostalgia. and like it feels like he's spry and he's younger again. It's like a traditional adventure, and it's a great send off. And you're like, maybe it is like this is a lot of feels in this review, but I agree.
Yeah. So I loved it. I enjoyed it. I can't wait for it to come out. I want to see it again. So yeah, it was a good time. I'm glad that we decided to go and see it. So
yeah,
and we saw an IMAX, so it was a lot of fun.
So did I. Yeah, it was good. Nice.
Go see it in theater. It's
I go see
Indiana
it.
Jones.
It's fun. It's fun. It's worth seeing. Yeah, it's worth seeing. I'd go see it too. So 7.5 for me, 8 from Kyle. That wraps up our big premiere movie of the week, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Go see it. Kyle, that takes us into our final segment of the day, and my favorite. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
So we've made it. We're at the wrap up point. We're at our segment that lasts like 45 minutes. So
I know I'm gonna really try not to go in depth on these. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet.
I think these categories is a little easier. We don't have to go super in depth into. So do you want to go first? Do you want me to?
I'll go first. I'll take off.
Go crazy.
Okay, so we were going a little bit different. We've gotten kind of heavy in like the top 5s of like best DC movies, best Marvel villains, or what. Like which are interesting and fun, but like I think for me it's a lot more fun when we do like the obscure shit, like the stuff that's just like that's super random, but people like to hear it. So, anyways.
You know what we did last week? We did top 5 John Carpenter. We did top 5 Kurt Russell. I don't mind those because they're not like super in depth. But the only thing is like our lists are very similar in both of those, and so I think
there's not a lot to choose from too.
Correct. And this is going to be completely different.
All over the world. You're really going to figure out what time period Howie was born in and where I was born in. So, okay. My top 5 video games you've devoted the most time to. So games that you've spent the most time of your life playing. I'm going to jump right into it. My number 5 is freaking awesome. It's called Subnautica, and it perfectly works out with all of the submarine shit that's just happened the last couple weeks. Subnautica is a survival game, which I've never been a survival game fan, but literally you crash land, you're like a astronaut.
You play it with a Logitech controller?
No, but I heard that survived. You're like an astronaut on a big giant space station ship that crash lands onto a water planet, and you don't know there's no survivors, but you land in a life pod and you're slowly trying to find who survived, and your big ship is crashing, exploding in the background, and it's literally the best deep sea ocean submarine scuba diving game ever. And it is the scariest video game I've ever played. And it's not even a horror game.
It would freak me out.
Most people say like that this isn't a horror game, but this is their scariest game ever because they nail deep sea, pitch black, terrifying. I don't want to move my sub anymore because there could be a Leviathan at any moment. The sounds are incredible. It's scary, terrifying. Subnautica. I don't know why I always go back to it. I have a ton of fun playing it. Number 4. I'm going both games. This is the series. Knights of the Old Republic. These 2 games, one was by BioWare, one was by Obsidian. Number 1 was BioWare, number 2 was Obsidian. These games are what set kind of the precedent for me in RPGs and story games, and I have spent so much time and so many playthroughs going through the Knights of the Old Republic. It's a Star Wars game. You're Jedi. The first one is way better than the second one, but they're both great. I still go back and play them every now and then. So
I just got done playing the first one again because it was on Switch.
Yeah, it's so good. And they're from back when like the original Xbox dropped was when the first game came out. Yep. So ton of fun. Introduced one of my favorite Siths of all time as Darth Revan, and also Darth Malak. Fucking awesome story in that first game, which I hope they make the movie right. Number 3, this is also a series, but I have spent so much time playing this series, the Fallout series. So Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4. These games are you're in basically the world had a nuclear apocalypse or there was nuclear war in America, and basically the whole world gets turned into a wasteland. And you wake up, you go down into a vault, and every game you basically emerge from one of these vaults to survive, and then you're out in the wasteland, and like you're figuring out whatever the story is. They're a ton of fun. Fallout New Vegas is looked at as one of the greatest games of all time. Fallout 4, I fucking love. It's a great time. But yeah, played a ton of Fallout. These are the games that I always will go and download. Like if I don't have a new game to play, like I'll end up downloading one of these and probably play it the most. Oh my God, I just realized I screwed up. I had one of my games all twisted around. Number 2 is a tie between a series and a game. I couldn't have these not at the highest part of the list. Mass Effect is tied for number 2. Mass Effect series is incredible. It's Star Trek meets Star Wars. It's just the fucking coolest games ever. I don't know if you ended up finishing it or playing them, but
I finished the first one and I didn't quite finish the second one, but I was into it and I need to finish it.
First game is honestly still my favorite. Kind of like it's also made by BioWare, the same people who made the first
play very similar.
Knights of the Republic. Same, very similar, like not necessarily gameplay, but overall premise. You know, you get a ship, you get a party, you get certain planets that you go to. Mass Effect is an incredible series. It's a ton of fun. Commander Shepard is one of the coolest video game characters ever. And then the bad guy in that first one is great. Tied for number 2 with Mass Effect is The Witcher 3. I have played so much freaking Witcher 3. It's one of the biggest games ever. It's incredible. Geralt of Rivia is one of the coolest characters ever. I never played number 1 or 2 before. I played them since I played the third one, but Witcher 3 was the first game I played out of the series, and just it's so good. There's so much to do. You're a freaking monster hunter. You have 2 swords. One is steel for men and normal human fights, but then you have a silver sword that's just for fighting monsters, and you literally can take contracts to go bounty hunt freaking monsters. And the story that's interlaced to this whole thing, it's so good. It's such a good series. I cannot not have that close to the top of my list. And then number 1, I couldn't put any other game here because I can pull the data on my Xbox. I've played like 4 total months of my life added up in this freaking game. Skyrim. This game, it's a Bethesda game, which is also the same as the Fallout series. Skyrim is one of the greatest games and could be argued to be the greatest game ever. I've bought it at full price for like 6 different consoles because they re-release it all the time. Skyrim is awesome. Being the Dragonborn back in this period time, you're basically like a Jedi in like Dragon and Knights time. It's a huge, huge open world. You can go anywhere and be anyone. We always end up being stealth archers, so that's what we all end up playing as. If you've never played Skyrim, you're a moron. You need to go do it. It's the best freaking game to spend all of your time in. So, like, there's an opening scene where you like walk out into this snowy mountain world, and like going back now and looking at the original graphics, it doesn't look that great, but at the time, it literally felt like you were on a mountainside and you were about to conquer the world. And everywhere you can see on the screen, as far as the eye can see, is where you could go. And it's so good. Such a great game. I can't wait till they come out with the new Elder Scrolls. But yeah, that's my That's my list.
Nice.
That's me.
It's good stuff.
I talked a lot. I couldn't do it. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
I know. That's how you are. It's all right. We'll get through it. All right. So, yeah, my list is completely different, which is not surprising because I almost had Knights of the Old Republic on there, but I didn't just because of how much I played these games. So I got to start with an honorable mention, and there's a little bit of backstory with this one, so I'm going to talk about this for a little bit. So when COVID started, Reagan wanted a Switch for her birthday, and so her birthday was in March of 2020. So it was like, we're going to get her a big gift. We bought her a Nintendo Switch. So she got Animal Crossing New Horizons for the Nintendo Switch, right? And it was very much, we were home a lot for obvious reasons because COVID had just started. And her and I played this game all the time. And it got to the point where like you could play at the same time, and you're like a character and you have an island and animals come and visit and you like buy stuff, build houses, whatever. It's very much a kid's game. And it was kind of this thing that we did where like, even when she was asleep, I would go and I would try to catch all the bugs, or I would catch all the fish and put them in the museum. And like, so then that way the next day she'd wake up and like all that stuff would be there. So I put hundreds of hours into this game, like playing with her. And then COVID was over and I was like, fuck this, I'm out. Bye.
Love that.
But it was fun. It was a good escape for us. My sister, right before COVID started, she had moved to California. And she got into this game. So it was kind of this thing where like we'd have the iPad like on the footstool, and like we'd be FaceTiming her and we'd all be playing together at the same time. So it was kind of a neat kind of COVID escape. Anyway.
My wife talks about that's the only video game my wife has ever been like obsessed with. Like her mom talks about her playing that game early in the morning on GameCube, leaving to go to work and coming back home, and Steph had not moved because she's just been playing Animal Crossing.
I can see where people would find it super addictive just because there's so many little different things. You know, there's games like that. People play that kind of stuff. I get it. Number 5 for me was Diablo 2.
You're a Diablo guy.
I love Diablo. When Diablo, I never played the first one. Didn't know that? I never played the first one. So Diablo is a franchise by Blizzard. The first one was a PC game, and it was later released on the original PlayStation. But I never played it. I didn't know that. Yeah, it was. It was a bad port, but it was originally on the PlayStation. So Diablo 2 was a PC game. I never really got into PC games, but I had some friends that were like, man, you got to play this game. Like, it is freaking awesome. I got Diablo 2. I played the shit out of that game. Like, nothing I love more than killing monsters, getting loot, and making my character a badass, right? Like, and I'd play it on one difficulty, and then you could take the same character and start the next difficulty, and you just keep playing through the game because the drops are better in the loot. Your character is getting more experience, and you're leveling them up.
You sound like you're a World of Warcraft talker right now.
Never played.
Bojanski is
never played it.
It's that you just explained literally what Matt Bojanski does every week.
So I just
wait. They just dropped a new one? Diablo 4 just came out. So are you going to play that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
So Diablo 2 Diablo 2 got remastered and got released for next gen consoles not too long ago, and I was like, "Yep, go and play again." So I got played through it again. It's just one of those games that was super addictive. I played the hell out of the third one too.
Awesome ass,
you know. So, and I got that one. I had that one on PlayStation 4. And then like when the expansion came out too. So that was the first one I ever played on console was Diablo 3, and I loved it.
Nice.
So I'll get Diablo 4 here as soon as I'm done playing the game I'm currently still playing. So number 4, I have Perfect Dark. If you've never played Perfect Dark,
wow.
This is a first-person shooter made by Rare. It was a pseudo sequel to the Nintendo 64 classic GoldenEye. A lot of people played GoldenEye, loved GoldenEye. It was fantastic. Perfect Dark had some of the same levels, completely different story. Wasn't a James Bond game, but it played very similar, very much the same. The multiplayer on Perfect Dark is the multiplayer first person before online was a thing. Like it was the game, like me and my college buddies would sit for hours. Like we would stay up all night playing this day after day after day. For
fascinating.
Just like multiplayer like crazy. Like me and me and my one of my other roommate, we all played it, but me and one other roommate, like we were gonna see. You got rankings based on like how well you were at multiplayer, and I think I can't remember number 2, like he was like amateur, and then it just kept going up, right? The rankings, like number 1 was like dark, like that was what it was like, and so we were like battling who was going to get there first, because the more you win, the more you get there, and that was kind of like that was our thing, was like which one of us was the better at the game and who was going to get there first, and like we'd play with all our other friends. Anyway, Perfect Dark, it's a fantastic game.
That's great. Would not expect that to be on your list. Love that.
Number 3, I put the Mortal Kombat trilogy. I played all the Mortal Kombat games a ton. I used to play them with my friends. People would come over, they get mad at me, like, because they hate playing with me because I just kill them all, right? Like that was, that was fun. The one I played the most, and that's why I put Mortal Kombat Trilogy, is that's an actual game for the Nintendo 64. It was called Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and it was basically like 1, 2, and 3. It was like all the characters from 1, 2, and 3 into one thing. They had like Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was a game, and then Mortal Kombat Trilogy was a different game, but it was kind of the same thing. It just kind of depended on what console you were on. So that was what I had. I played the shit out of that game. That was what I had at number 3.
Love that.
Number 2, I have a tie, and it's Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So it's the game I'm still playing.
2.
Yeah, so it's still playing Tears of the Kingdom right now. I'm a couple hundred hours in. I've beaten it multiple times. I'm working on getting everything, right? Exploration. Breath of the Wild I did. And I'm waiting for the DLC to come down because I need it to happen soon. But it's a great game. They, arguably, probably in my opinion, the greatest 1-2 punch video games of all time. Zelda. My opinion. Number 1.
I think a lot of other people have that same exact feeling too.
Yeah. Number 1 for me is Final Fantasy VI.
What?
Final Fantasy VI?
I have no idea that you. I have never played a game.
I have never played a game as much as I played Final Fantasy VI. So I had a Super Nintendo when I was younger, and I had a buddy who played Final Fantasy II, which wasn't actually Final Fantasy II. It was Final Fantasy IV. It was called Final Fantasy II in the US because Final Fantasy 2 and 3 were never released. So they ported Final Fantasy 4 from Japan and named it Final Fantasy 2. I watched him play it. I played, it's a one-player game. It's a turn-based JRPG. The stories in Final Fantasy games are epic. They're, like I was used to playing like Legend of Zelda, Save the Princess. I was used to playing Super Mario, Save the Princess. And then here's this game that it's like there's good and there's evil and there's government and there's emperors and there's dragons and there's magic and there's summons, and it's like, and the story is huge. And then Final Fantasy 3 came out for the Super Nintendo, and I remember playing my buddy playing Final Fantasy 2, and I watched him play it all the time. So I got Final Fantasy 3, and that's actually Final Fantasy 6. So it was the same kind of thing. They never released the other ones in the US, so Final Fantasy 6 was ported over as Final Fantasy 3. I've never played a game that takes so many hours to play multiple times. I've played that game on every system it's ever come out on. Like I had it on my freaking iPhone and played the whole damn thing. And it's one of those games, like I know all the characters, I know all the espers. I could go play that thing right now and I know where everything's at. As huge as that game is, I know where it's all at, and I've played it. I played all the Final Fantasies through 10. And then
I did not know that. You've never talked about Final Fantasy.
Oh, I love Final Fantasy. And they just got a new one just came out, so I might have to play that too. So I played all of them through 10. I went back and played the original one for the Nintendo. I played the actual Final Fantasy 2. I played 3, I played 4, I played 5. I didn't like 5 as much because it had a job system. It wasn't my favorite thing. 6 is my favorite. 7 is considered one of the greatest games of all time. I think 6 is better. I don't even think it's close. I think 7 is so loved because it was the first 3D one. And it was for PlayStation. I played 8, I played 9, I played 10. 11 was an MMORPG. That's not my thing. I didn't play it. So then a few years later, they made 12. I got 12 for the PlayStation 2. I didn't like it. I didn't like the story. I didn't like the characters. It wasn't my thing. I quit playing them. I'd go back and play the old ones.
Love that.
So Final Fantasy 16 just came out. A lot of people are saying it's a return to form for the franchise. I'm considering it. I also have Diablo 4 to get. You can see on my list.
You've got some games.
Tears of the Kingdom came out. Diablo 4 came out. Final Fantasy 16 came out. All around within like a month of each other. I got some shit I got to get done. So
you need to stop going to work and start gaming a little bit more.
Yeah, work's killing me right now. So that's my
love that, man. You had some on there that I did not know you played. I mean, we don't really dive in too much on video games. I mean, other than we've talked a lot about Zelda and stuff, but
yeah.
Like, I had fucking no clue you were going to have Perfect Dark on there, but it does make sense because I know you're a GoldenEye nerd. Final Fantasy, did not expect that. The extent of my Final Fantasy experience was, I can't remember which one, but it's the guy with like a yellow jacket. There's a sports game that they play where it's like a big water bubble thing.
10.
I just played a demo of it, but I never played those games. But I love that. That's great. I know it's huge across the world, all over the place.
It used to
Matt
be. It's
talks
not
about
near what it is anymore, but
for sure. Well, I think they came out with a new one like 2 or 3 years ago that was like pretty good. Like, you can drive a car. It's very open world. And
yeah, that's 15. It wasn't super well liked, but
I will throw
the reviews on the new one are legit. So
my other games, I know my brother will murder me if I don't even say the words, but like Metal Gear is also up there.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemptions, Halo, and there was a fourth one, but I can't remember what the fourth one is, and I know he's going to kill me.
This is, like you said, this is very much our age.
It was hard.
Right?
Yeah,
but it's very much our age. Your games are more within the last 10, 15 years. My games are more like 20, 30 years ago for the most part. Like that's it's just, that's when
I think they're from the same time frame of our lives of like when you were a certain age and when I was a certain age.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, that's my list. I was gonna start by saying Pong, but
I fucking thought, I was shocked you didn't have Pong on there.
Snake, Pong,
yeah,
Pac-Man.
Gosh, Tetris, greatest game,
dude. I
ever.
could play some Tetris, man. I'll play some freaking Tetris.
You could.
I would love some Tetris. I had it on the Game Boy. I played that shit all the time.
I had it on my phone, my old brick phone. Let's jump into yours.
Okay, so there could be only 5 this week. It's an out there one. It's way out there. It's the 5 most what the fuck movies you've ever seen. WTF movies. You got done seeing a movie and you were like, the hell was that?
Yep.
So I thought this would be kind of a fun one. I'm sure our lists are going to be completely different. But
I think we'll actually have more on here similar than you think.
We'll see. We might. I don't know.
We will. I think so. Go for it.
I had one honorable mention, and this is a movie you and I actually saw together last year. And it's not so much. I put it as an honorable mention because I loved it when I got done. It wasn't a WTF, but it was a WTF while I was watching it. And that's the horror film Barbarian. You want to talk about a movie where the marketing didn't tell you a damn thing about what that movie was about. Like, it looks like a gal goes to an Airbnb, there's a creepy dude in that house, and then there's like a sex dungeon in the basement. That ain't it. That ain't at all what that movie's about. You think and that's also what it is.
The title is throws you off too, of like, what is Barbarian? Like, what could this be about?
Yeah, that movie's wild. If you haven't seen that, it's on Hulu and it's on Max. Go frickin' watch that movie if you like horror movies. It's
good. It's crazy, it's great good. Movie.
Yeah. Anyway,
we literally the whole time were like, I literally said, "What the fuck?" Like,
I think there was a couple
million times during the movie.
There's this point in the middle of the movie where it's like one thing ends and something completely different starts, and I was like, I looked at you and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yes, it was crazy. And I mean, you got Skarsgård, you got Justin Long. I don't remember the girl's name, but the actors are great.
Their chemistry's great. It's wild. It's a wild movie. Anyway. Yeah. Moving on, that was my honorable mention. Number 5, I have Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm one of those people that I really like to see heavily nominated movies, especially getting into awards season. I like watching the Oscars and stuff because I'm such a movie guy. I try to watch every Best Picture nominee before the Oscar ceremony and kind of see my favorites. Now, I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once when it first came out because it had such great reviews and a lot of word of mouth was saying it was good. It's a great movie. It's fantastic. I don't think it didn't deserve to win awards, but like you get done watching that movie and you're like, what the hell did I just watch?
I
It's
never
like
saw it.
It's like a multiverse superhero movie that's about a Chinese family trying to fight through their family stuff.
I thought that last part was what I thought the whole movie was. Just
It's weird,
family.
man. It's a weird movie. It's out there. It's weird. So that's all I'm going to say. It's weird. It's good. The acting's fantastic. Obviously, multiple people won Oscars. Go see it. It's worth seeing once, but you'll get done watching it and you'll be like, what the hell was that? So that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. Number 4, man, I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. I love Mallrats and Clerks and Chasing Amy. Man, I love those movies. Tusk.
Fucking Tusk. What a fucking movie. Is that?
So, you haven't seen Tusk. Like, I don't even know if I could recommend it because it's just like.
Don't watch it.
It's weird, man. Basically,
I fucking knew you were going to have that. Yes.
That's all I can tell you. I don't know what the hell was going on. He was on some really good drugs. That's all I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea where the premise came from or why Kevin Smith felt that this was the movie. Justin Long, again, second movie of Justin Long.
He's a weirdo on this. What can I say?
Man, that movie is fucking weird and uncomfortable. And they force him. He gets kidnapped.
Body horror is uncomfortable. You know, that's kind of the whole point of body horror. This is weird body horror. Like, it's not just, it's weird.
Like, super weird.
Number 3, I had Donnie Darko. If you've never seen Donnie Darko, I couldn't tell you what that movie's actually about. No idea. There's this weird rabbit. Jake Gyllenhaal's really good in it. Does he have powers? Is he actually dead? Patrick Swayze's a pedophile. There's a lot of weird shit in that movie.
Yep.
I think I've seen it once or twice. I'll never watch it again. I don't know what the hell is going on. It's weird.
I think that's on a lot of the WTF lists.
That's a weird freaking movie, man. If you've never seen it, I don't know if I can recommend it because it's weird. Number 2, we've talked about Hereditary before. Hereditary is one of those movies that, like, it's super creepy. That's not it. That's not Hereditary.
I know. Oh.
It's Midsommar. Oh. It's number 2 on my list. Midsommar. I went and saw that movie. It was on my birthday. And it came out, and I went and saw it that night, and I was like, I don't know that was fucking weird. It's basically like a horror movie that's like in Scandinavia during summer, so the sun never goes down, and there's a cult, and they sacrifice people, and there's a relationship, and there's a really creepy relationship that's like just annoying, and I didn't like it, and it was it was bad, and it was very the fuck, man.
A24 just hits home runs of fucking weird.
They do. I mean, they do hit a lot of. They have good movies too. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once was A24 too. By the way, yeah, it was.
Yes,
because they won their first like Best Picture Oscar. Anyway, then number 1, this is a documentary. And it's on Netflix. If you've never seen it, it's called Abducted in Plain Sight. They actually made a like TV movie about this story with, I think, Colin Hanks. Tom Hanks' oldest son. Colin Hanks is the main character. I don't remember what the TV movie is called. Abducted in Plain Sight. Basically, it's this documentary about this guy that's like a family friend, and he ends up kidnapping this girl, like this daughter of this family, and obviously molesting her. But he basically convinces the mom to sleep with him. And he like jerks off the dad at one point in real life, like really happened. Like he was that charismatic to these people. Like he fooled around with mom and dad. And then he kidnapped her a second time. This documentary, you watch it and you're like this the whole time. Like the whole time. It's batshit crazy. And it's even more so because it's something that really happened.
Yeah, it's like it's a documentary, so it's all real.
They're interviewing the actual people. Like when this girl's dad, like, well, he asked if he could give me a hand job, and I said okay.
What the
While
fuck?
he's fucking this dude's wife. Like,
That he knows
and he
about.
kidnapped and molested his daughter twice.
Wild.
The dude's crazy.
How modern is that?
It's not that old. Like,
Fascinating.
within the last 15 years. Abducted in Plain Sight on Netflix. It's so crazy.
Oh, it's on Netflix? Ooh, I might check that out.
You need to watch this documentary, man. This is nuts.
It's so weird. You have to watch it.
Yeah.
What a list. That
what the
interesting. Yeah, when you first said this theme, I was like, oh, that's gonna be hard to remember, like which movies. I was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Number 5, I did not have any honorable mentions, but number 5 for me, Human Centipede. Like,
oh, it's a good one.
When I saw that, was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, the premise of it is wild as shit. Why is that the premise? Why is this a movie? It was just, there was a lot of like BDSM kind of vibes of like stom sub, like you're gonna do what I'm gonna sew your mouth to her butthole, and I'm gonna sew her mouth to your butthole, and like,
is she gonna eat and shit in your mouth?
It was fucking weird.
It's weird.
And that movie was strange to me. No, but I thought it was wild that they made a second one.
There's 3 of them.
That's crazy.
Don't watch
Well, I think the first one was such a big hit in terms of like out there, and this is wild. Very 2 girls, 1 cup. Nobody wants to watch it, but you have to watch it at least once. Number 4, Barbarian, the movie you talked about that was like fucking crazy as shit. You think it's just an Airbnb where she runs into Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise, like that he's like a charismatic like vagabond that's gonna end up killing her, but like no, he actually, though he during the movie you think he's trying to help her, or you think that he could potentially be the one to kill her, he actually was just a normal guy trying to help her. And that there's a crazy fucking mutant monster. I won't spoil it. Go see it. One of
those movies you can't. You just can't.
Guys, Bradley, I know you're listening. Go see Barbarian.
Go see it.
Number 3. This movie is on a ton of like best movie lists, which it fucking drives me crazy because it makes no sense at all. Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind.
Yep.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm with you.
Don't you dare tell me that that's one of the top 10 greatest movies ever. No. The movie's super fucking weird. It's wild as hell. Jim Carrey is not good in it. Oh, I mean, he's good in it, but the movie is just weird. And freaking Titanic girl was in it too. None of it makes sense.
They both act very well. But that movie you're right, it's weird, man.
It's fucking weird. Elijah Wood's in that movie too. Now that I'm talking about it, it reminds me like he's like a helper. Are they CIA? Are they?
I own that movie, and
weird.
I won't watch it ever again.
I already know 3 of my friends watching this are like, "Oh, I'm not gonna love that movie." No, you're wrong. The movie's dumb. Number 2, which I thought you were saying this was your number 2, so I was like, oh shit, we're right on the money. Hereditary. This is like the 4th list I've had this on that we've talked about. It's a weird movie. It's so uncomfortable. I couldn't even finish it the first time. When I turned it off in that hotel and I didn't finish it the first time, I was like, what the fuck was that? I need to watch something really happy. I'm gonna put on Blippy the Kid Show to get my mind off. Yeah, I need to watch some of that. And then my number 1, which I thought you would have it on your list, and then I was like, oh, maybe he doesn't know about that movie, but then you had it on your list. Number 1, what the fuck movie of all time is Tusk? Are you kidding me? Tusk is the fucking weirdest movie ever. Weird. It's so weird. It's so uncomfortable. It is awful. He gets kidnapped by some old guy who then literally like chemically like paralyzes him and then surgically turns his body into a giant human skin walrus, huge tusks. He has a pool in his like massive mansion, and like then treats him like a pet walrus. And you slowly watch Justin Long turn into this thing where then he like succumbs to like, I can't fight this anymore, so I'm just going to be a walrus. It's fucking awful and weird and uncomfortable. I have no idea why Kevin Smith made this movie.
I
I
think
don't
that's
know
what makes it
where.
the weirdest about it. That's the weirdest thing about it. Is it's not like we're talking about what's his name that did Ari Aster that did Hereditary, right? We're not talking about him. You know, we're not
Yeah.
talking about like the Lars von Trier's of the world, or you know, what's the guy that did the Lobster? I don't remember, Lagamos or Yagamos or whatever his name is, the Greek guy. They just make weird fucking movies. Those guys make weird movies.
But Kevin Smith's like a freaking comic book nerd Batman guy. Like, what?
Right. He wrote comic books. He does comedies.
Yes.
I don't know what the hell this is.
It's so weird. And I don't know why it was made. My brother was actually the one who was like, dude, you have to watch Tusk. Like, he didn't say why, but as I watched it, I was blowing him up. Like, this is fucking weird, and I am uncomfortable.
It's so weird.
So
it's a bizarre
that's
movie.
my number one WTF movie ever.
I like
Don't
that
go
list.
see it, or go see it if you want to feel uncomfortable.
It's funny. We both kind of had Barbarian. I mean, I had it as an honorable mention. We both had Barbarian. Every other movie we talked about, we're like, don't see it. And then Barbarian, we're both like, you need to see it. Like, you need to see that movie. Like, it's awesome. Sure.
Yes.
I've watched it twice. And obviously, like, the first time, it's almost like you can't get that high back because you think it's a totally different movie than it actually is.
Yeah. Yeah. We've just pre-blown everybody's mind anyways. So sorry, guys.
It's great.
Which I think that was my favorite part about seeing it with you, because when you were like, hey, do you want to go to this movie right now? It's like, oh, I'll go to a movie.
Yeah.
I had never seen the trailer. I had no idea what it was about. And you were like, the trailer says it's about this, but from what I hear, it's nothing like that. And it's a total mind fuck. And so I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm getting into.
Sign me up.
Yeah, it was great. So, great, fun list.
Yeah, it was
Love
cool.
that.
It's a good list. Listen, we got to talk about Indiana Jones and all that throwback nostalgia and stuff. Go see Dial of Destiny. It's a lot of fun. If you want to check out some really weird freaking movies, there you go.
Yep.
We only recommend one each. It's the same movie. So that takes us to the end of the episode, though. Episode 13 of the Movie Dads podcast. We are at the end. Next week, we're back. Episode 14. I can't believe you haven't seen it. The 1996 Billy Zane superhero film, The Phantom, which stemmed from episode 12 when Kyle found out I've never seen The Phantom. So that will be back next week for Purple Singlet and the Skull Ring.
Super jacked Billy Zane.
Billy Zane. And the best villain name ever.
Xander
Drax. Porn star
Xander Drax.
Xander Drax.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. That's the end of Movie Dads podcast episode 13. Please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. Leave us a comment, especially if you're on YouTube. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, or Podcast Index, do the same. Please like and subscribe. You can find us on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We will talk
guys,
to you.
Go and comment. I haven't had any weird arguments in the last 2 weeks. Go comment, talk about your WTF movies. Actually, that's what we're going to do. Everyone put your WTF movies ever in the comment list. I want to hear them. I know all of you have Tusk within those lists, so let us know.
All right. That's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.